Hey guys, it's Tim Shermack, and welcome back to another episode of the Platform Marketing Show. I'm joined today by Lana Rodriguez, coming at you from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Lana, welcome to the show.
I'm here, Tim. Thank you so much for having me and excited for today, excited for next week to meet the rest of the platform fam. Let's go.
That's right. So we're going to be meeting up for the annual Platform Mastermind next week. By the time this episode goes live, it'll probably be this week. But I'm excited to see you in person again. Lana and I just connected, it was probably a month ago now. I was actually in Colorado Springs speaking at your Elevate conference. And before that, I think we first connected in person at the Girls with Grit conference last year. So yeah, I'm excited to see you again. And I'm excited for you to introduce yourself to the rest of the Plat fam at our mastermind coming up here. I know you're giving one of the keynote talks on how to build a referral only business. So without further ado, I actually just want to let Lana take things from here and kind of introduce yourself, share your story, and how you've built your business to the point now that you're working on referral. You're not buying leads. I mean, like, you've hit the point in your career that most agents aspire to, where business just keeps coming in from your database and from referrals without you having to spend $10,000 a month on Zillow or whatever. So how did you get to this point? Let's go in reverse, 10 years ago or even further back. How did you get to where you are now in your business?
All right, great question. And what an intro, Tim. Excited to continue our momentum. Third time is a charm. Well, so if you guys cannot hear right now, but you probably will hear eventually, I do have an accent. And I worked so hard to speak proper English and communicate effectively. But I'm an immigrant from the country of Latvia. And I have been in America for almost 20 years now. And for some of you wondering, no, accent does not go away. It like dims a little bit, but it's still there. And I had a pretty humbling immigrant journey. As most immigrants, I came to America in 2005 and I spoke very little English. So back in Europe, we still study English, but it's like British English. So when you come to America, you actually are insufficient. Like, no one cannot understand you, you cannot understand. And there's a big communication barrier. And for years, I came as a student. And for years, I was taking ESL. It's called English as a Second Language class,
Yep.
just to get acquainted, so I can understand, common phrases and words and humor. And man, it was quite a bit of a journey.
So Lana, I actually don't know if I ever told you this, but my wife's mother, so my mother-in-law, is also an immigrant. She immigrated here from Panama. She was an ESL teacher for most of her adult life, and she actually lives with us now. So my wife's mom lives with us full time, kind of like a multi-generational household. She still has an accent too, even though she immigrated 40 plus years ago. So yeah.
I mean, bless her, bless your family, Tim, and bless all the teachers and ESL teachers, because being an ESL teacher is not hard. Not only are you dealing with two different languages, but also two different cultures. Let's admit it.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. Yep.
and off topic, but one of my biggest whys when I came to America was actually to bring my parents here from Latvia. I used to joke Mother Russia, but we no longer say that for political reasons. And in 2016, I was able to do that with the help of my husband, with the help of United States Immigration Services. My mom came first, and then my dad followed. And what I have done, since real estate, I'm kind of jumping a little bit over into the real estate topic. I got licensed end of 2014. And fun fact, it was not a dream. Never, ever I woke up and I'm like, I'm going to be a realtor today. Let's go. Me and my husband, we PCSed into Colorado Springs area to Fort Carson via military relocation. And I wanted to really have a kid before I was 30, and my husband didn't. So we came to the meetings of the minds. And for us, for Brian and I, it means like finding an ultimatum. What do we need to do, for me to start getting pregnant? And he's like, why don't you go back to work? That's exactly what he told me. It's a true story. You can ask him yourself. And I evaluated what I wanted to do in my new duty station in Colorado, and I did not want it to go back to retail.
And he was in the Army, your husband, right?
Yeah, he was 12 years in the Army, and he got out now. He works with me. He's super blessed to have a wonderful boss like myself. Just kidding. It's a equal roles. I'm still the boss though.
You're like,
And
just kidding. No, but seriously.
no, but seriously, I don't know if he's listening, but I love you, babe. We were buying our third property back then in 2014. Because in Austin, Texas, I bought my first little townhouse. Then we invested into multifamily, and we were buying our single family home. And Brian said, well, why don't you become a realtor? Because see, I come from many years of clienteling and customer service experience. Even back in my country, I was working since I was 14. Legally, illegally, it doesn't matter. But I was in a customer service field, and he had a vision that I could become a real estate agent. And we both agreed that I can probably do a little bit better job than our previous realtors. And I'm not downplaying anybody, their work ethic is their work ethic, but it was very basic, very bottom line. Our last realtor didn't even show up to closing. Like, he sent somebody to do a final walkthrough. We even never met him till after the fact.
Yeah, I've heard a similar story from a lot of agents where like, hey, the reason I got into the business isn't necessarily because my mom or my dad or anyone I knew was a realtor. It's that when I bought a house, I had such a negative experience with my real estate agent, and then I saw how much money they made on the commission check. And I compared that to how kind of lazy of a job I thought that they did. And I thought, oh, I can do this better. And that's actually the story I feel like for a lot of agents is you just saw an agent who was bad at it and you're like, hey, well, if they can make a living doing this and frankly they're not very good, I could probably do a lot better if you actually put some work ethic into it.
Well, clearly, I feel like having a real estate license, it's a privilege. We cannot take that lightly. But I have so many stories, and I don't know how much time do we have, but I really want to share the story. My first realtor, it was my friend's dad, and it was back in Austin, Texas, and he was kind of handling lots of luxury listings on Lake Austin and things like that. And I was buying a $65,000 cash little townhouse. So for him, it was like, whatever, let me just service this young girl. And what he did, he was a decent transaction, whatever. And then I was looking for a contractor to help me rehab the place because the place was pretty shitty condition. And he referred me this gentleman, because remember, as realtors, we refer a lot of trades, trusted trades. And he referred me this guy who ended up being a homeless guy squatting into my little townhouse unit, going through $5,000 of my savings. And we had to evict this person out of my first house. So this was my first real estate experience. And I was so hurt. I'm like, how did this
And
gentleman
it
who,
was the agent who referred that person to you.
yep, yep. But once again, it didn't hit me that I wanted to be a realtor. I was like, well, it kind of was done wrong. And then our realtor in Colorado, he never showed up to closing. And when I was getting my real estate license, I was a little bit scared of the language barrier. But I was on a mission, I was like, I'm going to get licensed. I'm going to rub it off in my husband's face. And then I'm going to get off the pill and we're going to start having a baby. Because I'm one of those females who has a couple hormonal things going on. And I was actually told by a medical professional that I may never have kids. And I'm like, forget you, I will have kids. And got licensed. And I interviewed small little boutiques here in the Colorado Springs, and nothing vibed. And see, my background retail, I know how to sell brands. I was working for Michael Kors, Kenneth Cole, BCBG, Max Azria. So then somebody's like, well, why don't you go interview the Remax? And Remax back then, almost 10 years ago, was a big brand. And I went into Remax office, and Tim, I was so naive. I thought that they need to choose me. I stayed till 1 o'clock in the morning preparing for my Remax interview, studied everything, the dates when they launched, and they got me. And I was at Remax for 5 years, and they made me agent who I was. Because when we go and compete for buyers or listings, typically there's two other professionals that will be interviewing. It's just a numbers game. And with having a Remax balloon in the beginning, before I had my own brand, it helped because people were like, hey, how many homes did you sell? And I say, well, I haven't sold any homes in your area, but Remax here. So it was a good strategic move on my career, especially the first few years when I was running and gunning as a solo agent. And the real journey has begun in 2015. It was my first year. Keep in mind, for all our audience listening, we just moved to Colorado in 2014. So did we have a sphere? We did not. We had a little bit of military friends. And
So you're in a brand new city, obviously, still more or less in a brand new country. It goes without saying you don't have the sphere, you don't have past client relationships, you don't have a database in Colorado Springs. Like, you are truly building a business from scratch.
from scratch. And for someone who's thinking, well, you're a military spouse, it's easy for you to get acquainted. It's not, because people look at you as a temporary friend and temporary solution, and no one invests real relationships in you. I have learned that the hard way. And, it was interesting. And very early on, I got introduced to Brian Buffini systems. At our Remax office, we had Brian Buffini poster. I'm like, who's this guy? Oh, it's some immigrant guy who does calls, notes, and pop-ups working by referral. And I heard that he was doing something with the pies. And my mind, just like a lot of, like, I know you, Tim, you're a squirrel mind. I'm a squirrel mind. And I was like, okay, pies, let me see what I can do. Without proper due diligence, I actually, my husband was deployed in Germany back then. I went to Costco out of my own little savings, because me and Brian had little separate savings. I didn't want to tell him because he would think I'm absolutely nuts. I bought 85 pumpkin pies. $5.99 Costco, still the best deal, the 3.5 pound pies. And I created in Facebook, one of the Facebook yard sale pages, I created event, free pumpkin pie to your door before Thanksgiving. And within hours, I got RSVPs, and I did it through Google Drive, a Google Drive sheet, and I had their names, their emails, their addresses. And for 3 days, I drove in my little Kia Soul, knocking on strangers' doors, delivering these pies. My Remax people, they were making fun of me. My husband thought I was crazy after he found out I'm doing this. But that particular move in 2014 actually gave me 5 opportunities to buy or sell in the next year. Because once again, friends, we're a numbers game. And when you come into the new city and you're trying to jumpstart your business, we have to do something uncomfortable. I'm not of a door knocker. Okay, I have door knocked in the past, and I freaking hated it. Excuse my language. And I'm probably never gonna do this. But when you door knock to somebody who actually is expecting a little free value from you, it works. And people are like, "Hey, wow, you who are you? Why are you giving out these pies? Are they safe to eat?" I'm like, "What? I'm a new real
Are
estate
they are
professional."
they safe to eat?
Well, like strangers coming to you with some
Yeah.
treats. I'm like, "Is there poison? Is there
Yeah.
hidden agenda?"
Now, actually, there's a principle here I want to pause and just kind of reflect on, because the point you just made is actually pretty profound. That, hey, I don't like door knocking. No one likes door knocking, right? But it kind of changes when you know that when they answer the door and you knock, that you have good news to share. It's like, hey, here's a free pie, right? Like you're not door knocking with some awkward sales script of, are you thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, right? You're just offering a free gift. So you don't really have to like motivate yourself to go do it, because every conversation is going to more or less be a pleasant conversation, because you're giving them, the only reason you're there is to give them a free pie and just kind of build up some social capital, right? The same thing is true when we tell all of our platform agents the importance of following up with your leads and calling your leads and calling your database, is that if you're just calling through your past database or calling a list of leads or whatever, and all you're saying is, hey, I just wanted to check in, were you still thinking about buying a home this year? That's annoying. And you probably will have to psych yourself up to make those phone calls, because those aren't pleasant phone calls. They're awkward. No one wants to take that phone call from a realtor if it's just you checking in to see if they're thinking about buying or selling, right? However, if you change your script and you say, hey, I'm just calling to invite you to a client appreciation event. We're buying movie tickets for everyone to see such and such new movie, or I'm calling to invite you to this, or I'm calling to see, would you like me to deliver a Thanksgiving pie to you? I'm ordering a bunch of pies from a local bakery and I can drop them off, right? Would you like me to bring you a free pie on Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, right? If you like, here's the lesson. If you actually think of something creative, so when you're doing these cold reach outs, that you're actually sharing good news, like you're offering something for free, then you don't have to motivate yourself or psych yourself up to do it, because it's kind of actually fun calling people and giving them good news, right?
Yeah. No, 100%. You're so right, Tim. And I don't want to misspell it, but there's this word. It's the principle of reciprocity. No,
Reciprocity. There you go. Yep.
reciprocity.
From
Yeah.
Robert Cialdini. He wrote the book Influence, and
Hmm.
that's probably the most cited chapter in the book, is the principle of reciprocity. Yep.
Yeah. Because if you keep being a serving leader in your community, and your community can be small or big, there will be a time when somebody's going to notice your kindness, and they're going to want to pay you in a very organic way. Not like, hey, I did this for you, you owe me this. That's not how we do business. Um, but pretty much another thing what has really really worked with me in the beginning of my career is discovering what I will do for my business and the things that I will not. Let me give you a short story of 2015. It was a year also when I was blessed with my first pregnancy. God is good. And I knew I had 9 months. My baby was due in October. And, my mind was like, okay, I was also a very naive young mom to be. I was like, baby's gonna come. I'm gonna go on maternity leave, all this. None of that worked out that way. That's a different story. But for next 9 to 10 months before I gave birth, I actually worked up to 42 and a half weeks pregnant. I was this little tank walking around showing homes. People assumed I was having twins and I just had a big baby. But that particular year, first year in business, I tried everything. And by everything, it meaning I did open houses, I did door knocking, cold calling, everything that old school Remax mentality told me to do. I was like, let's go. Social media and Facebook ads, it was not a big thing back then because I'm sure as a professional marketer, social media just started coming back to life 7, 8, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 11 years ago. It was like, hey, let's just do traditional business practices. And I even joined. Do you remember the platform called Meetup? Like Meetup, it's an app, and you
Okay.
can go and join all these different meetups. Knitting moms, hiking moms to be, moms who
Oh,
love
sure.
dogs. It was a real thing. So I also plugged myself into all these groups, and sometimes I'm sitting at these groups. I was like, I'm wasting my time away. But what it granted me a permission to connect to somebody powerful, maybe a host of the group, and to develop these relationships further. Because I don't necessarily need to meet every single person in that group or in that room, but as long as the alpha person knows who I am, and possibly that I'm a real estate agent who's aspiring to be a great, influencer in a city, that opened up a lot of doors for me. And the numbers speak for themselves. The first year, right before end of the year, I did 32 transactions. 32 transactions my first year of business. And then I had a birth of my daughter. And of course, there was some complications at birth. We ended up being in NICU for 10 days. And I came home with her. I was trying to do the breastfeeding, but also somehow, with God's grace, my business was taking off, and I was able to stay at home only for 2 weeks with her. 2 weeks with her. That's when my mother came. I handed my baby to my mom. I was like, Mom, I have to go back to work. And the following year, 2016, it was a record breaking year, not only for me, but a lot of agents in RMLS, because that particular year I did 119 transactions as a solo producer, second year in the business.
How many?
119.
So you did over 100 transactions in your second year as a real estate agent.
Second year as a real estate agent, yes. And it was
What
probably,
was what was dry? I mean, did you have any paid marketing sources? Were you buying leads from anywhere? Was it just strict like building your network? I mean, uh like I want to say sphere business because normally that's what I would say there, but you didn't have a sphere because you'd only lived there for a year. So like, I mean, how did you get that many contacts just in only having been there for what, 18 months?
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Number one, I was working within my superpowers. And I think one of my superpowers, besides the charm, just kidding, is I'm a professional connector. Okay. If can have somebody face to face with me and if I can spend with them about 30 minutes to an hour, I think there's going to be a relationship built. Also, as I mentioned before, very quickly I realized what I will not gonna do, and prospecting and doing cold calls is not gonna be my line of business. Only because, full transparency, I still have an accent, and I cannot close the sale over the phone. It gets weird. I start getting sweaty or misspell this, and I lose that confidence. But in person, it comes also. I picked it up from retail, where if somebody's in front of me and I can build that rapport, establish customer needs, 90% of the chance they will work with me or they will buy something from me. Another thing what I have discovered is we were military family and I was just looking for a gaps in community. Okay. And for all of our audiences, if you are a military spouse or maybe a veteran, start looking because, military says, yeah, we are this one big family. It's a bunch of bullshit. No, you're very secluded. And my niche right now, my niche is a little more diverse, but for almost 9, 8 years, my niche was military because this is who I was. My husband was still active duty, serving, deploying. And I was like, well, what if I come and I start building this community of military spouses? And, I was a mom, so I wanted to have the families included. It was important for me to include my mom too, so she feels, not limited. And I
You
started
know,
building the
now
client. Mhm.
so now even to this day, the name of your brand, your Facebook page is PCS
PCS
Colorado
Colorado.
Springs. Yep.
Yeah.
And for those who are not kind of military insiders, what does PCS stand for again? Do you know?
It's just that it stands for permanent change of station. It's a
Change of
military
station. Okay.
term.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's for when the military moves, moves someone from this base to another base. And so like the average person out there maybe doesn't understand what PCS, that the phrase PCS means, but your Facebook page is called PCS Colorado Springs, the Lana Rodriguez, group. So any military person who sees that immediately knows what that means. So that's just an example of you kind of carving out a niche, that you even named your Facebook page PCS Colorado Springs to speak to that, that specific demographic.
And we were debating to switch it up because right now we have multiple niches. We're tapping into the luxury and we work with a lot of first time home buyers who are not military affiliated. But this brand has been around for so many years. Why to fix it if it's not broken?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But building that community from very early on and identifying the niches, I'm sorry, the opportunities within the niche, I think that's what escalated me. For example, I'll give you the story. Brian and I, we had a newborn daughter, and I was like, it would be so nice to go to be invited to go to some, like, I don't know, like fall thing or maybe a pictures with Santa. And I don't know about you guys, but every time I took my kids to take pictures with Santa at the mall or Dick's Sporting Goods, it was a complete disaster because by the time we get to our line, one of my kids like pukes or threw up and we have to leave. So that's why I decided I'm going to do my own events where it's my timing, my client's timing, and I have started provided these opportunities to our client community, and it grew because right now client events is a thing, is a strategy, and I will talk about that at my keynote at the platform event. But believe it or not, like so many agents who I run into on a regular basis or friends out of the state, no one is doing that or no one is doing it as a strategy. But once again, I love events. I used to do mini events at my retail career back in the past. So I'm like, why not to bring something like this into the real estate space? And
Yep.
there was a
Yep.
need. And if you're right now listening and you think, oh, I lost the momentum, I never hosted anything. No, you can host. If there is an occasion in the world, like right now we have Thanksgiving, Christmas, beginning of the year, Valentine's Day, freaking Easter. There's so many
There's so many,
opportunities.
yeah, there's so many reasons and excuses to have events. You should never not host client appreciation events because you can't think of something to do. In fact, I will go as far to say, I have a sample size of nearly 300 agents that are working a platform right now. So I have a pretty good perspective, a pretty good sample size of seeing what works and what doesn't work, because we work with so many clients across the country in, big cities, small towns, suburbs, and everything in between, right? And I can pretty confidently say that we don't really have any clients that are struggling or having a tough year if they're regularly doing client appreciation events and staying top of mind with their sphere. The people that have struggled in 2023 and 2024 are the agents who were just entirely dependent on online leads, whether it's from Zillow or Facebook leads or wherever, but they weren't staying top of mind with their sphere. They're not doing client appreciation events. They were just entirely dependent on the lead flow coming in during the good times, but now that the market has obviously slowed down and we're kind of in the midst of a market shift right now over the last year, with interest rates being what they are and home prices still being so high, that if you don't have a strong sphere and a database to fall back on, all of a sudden you're probably not getting as many leads from Zillow anymore, again, or Facebook leads, wherever you're getting your leads from. So it's the agents who never stopped doing client appreciation events and just other community events, even if it's open to the community and it's not technically just a private client appreciation event. It's the agents who are doing those events that are not struggling right now.
Yeah. No, well said. Because see, community can look in many different shapes and forms. Full transparency, we have tested out some of the community events, and that may be a strategy for 2025 because we're always looking to add one thing that we're going to do different. But I'm a firm believer to market myself to people who know, like, and trust me, and that has been a limiting belief for many years. But that's now I partnered up with you guys because I also understand that there might be another pool of clients who might be my soul aligned clients, and I cannot reach them myself. So that's why it's been so effective working with platform and doing the ads and just helping me to, get my name out in the community.
What are like the top two or three client events that you do every year that just seem to work every
Okay.
year? Is there a top two or top three that have worked the best, just so we can dive into some specifics here? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that are thinking, okay, if
Yeah.
she's selling 100 homes a year and she's basically doing that almost entirely by just client events and community events, I'm sure people wondering like, what are the specific events that you do that work so well?
Yeah, I'm gonna just say four. I have, like, if you guys are thinking of client event and if something is in your head, just reach out to me. I probably have done it or thought about it, and I'll give you the pros and the cons. Because within the last 10 years, we probably tested out everything. Um, you have to know your client avatar. In my client avatar, it's probably a husband, wife, maybe kids, maybe no kids, pets, right? So anything that I do on a mass level, it needs to be catered to them. I have a friend in Miami, Florida, who has a bunch of party people, a bunch of bachelors, cool influencer divas, girls. He's definitely not gonna do like a family-oriented pumpkin patch to invite his clients, right? So you have to know your avatar, and if you are just kind of like not sure what your client avatar is, reach out to me or Tim. Will be happy to strategize with you. Um, Easter event goes a long way. Because like if you think what are the entities hosting East celebrations? Most of the time are churches, okay? And church, it's pretty like probably egg hunt, whatever. We started with the egg hunt, and I was looking at my client community, just kind of like scattered at the park. I was like, my clients deserve better. How can I make it more experiential? And we started doing Easter brunch. Okay, we have done it for almost 6 7 years. Last year, I'm sorry, this year. Last year we did it. This year was the only year we did not do it because we're working on a stricter budget. But rest assured, I'm going to be working extremely super hard so I can bring the Easter brunch back next year, because this has been a shifted year. We had to, modify our budget. But Easter brunch, we still have Easter bunny. It's complimentary breakfast buffet. All adults get some mimosa. It's very very cool, and no one else in your market is doing that.
And
Okay.
where would you host something like this? Like, what does the venue look like for an Easter brunch?
We have a country club here, like a little hotel country club, and we do it in the morning when there is nothing going on, because typically they don't do breakfast, they do lunches
Sure.
and
Okay.
dinners, and then conversation is, hey, I'm going to bring this group of people, can you provide me a great rate, blah blah blah. And typically they do, because hosting a breakfast buffet, it's much cheaper than hosting a lunch buffet. Here's a
Right.
tip.
Right.
um,
Now, how much approximately, and maybe you can't remember, the exact dollar amount off the top of your head, but just approximately, how much money do you spend on this Easter brunch, Easter client appreciation event, and how many people
yeah.
generally showed up to that?
So yeah, I don't want to spook anybody with numbers, but this particular event is probably $20,000.
Okay.
$20,000 because you are paying for, per plate per an adult, a plate per kid. It's typically cheaper. We don't play the room fee because if you are buy enough food and drinks, it
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
levels itself out. And then of course, bottomless mimosas, if you're gonna do that, or mimosa per glass. Typically, one mimosa is never enough, so you bottomless mimosas that's where it adds up. Okay, so
And
that's my
how
main
many
cost.
how many people approximately show up to the, I mean, again, just like generally,
Yeah,
100,
so
50, 250, I mean,
probably with kids and adults up to 500.
okay, so that actually really changes the math here. So again, that $20,000 number might sound really scary to someone who's never done a client appreciation event, but you're talking about $20,000 amortized over 500 attendees. The actual cost per attendee, therefore, really isn't that expensive if 500 potential people are showing up. I mean, if you scale those numbers back, let's say it's actually just a fifth of that. Rather than 500 people, you do an event that 100 people show up to. So let's say that, again, someone's working with a smaller database. They're not going to have 500 people, but their goal is to get 100 people. Well, a fifth of 500 is 100. A fifth of $20,000 is $4,000. So you could think of it as like every 100 people that show up, it'll probably cost you approximately $4,000. And I think that's a lot more palatable for most people because, again, as a real estate agent, that's less than one commission. It's a fraction of one commission. So if you can build that much goodwill and relationships and stay top of mind with all those people, and it costs you a fraction of one commission, even though it feels like a lot of money, or it seems like a lot of money, like really it's not.
Yeah. And you have to look at that also like a strategy for saving your time, because the pop by, like me delivering pumpkin pies or delivering pop buys to clients' doors, it's a lot of time on your hand. Okay. And you're driving through the snow, the weather, God forbid something happens on the road. Where when I started doing client events, it was aha moment. And keep in mind, friends, if you're listening and you're like, you want to do this, but you don't have a big community, look, you can invite your neighbors, for God's sake. You can invite your vendors. It can be a little bit of clients. Invite your friends. Hopefully, you have friends. Just kidding. But it's all about the perception. One of my first events was in this little Brazilian joint. It's called Tucanos. It's nothing sexy as Fogo de Chao or Texas de Brazil, but it's a small little place in Colorado Springs. The reason why I did that is because I knew my cost per plate. It's a buffet setting, and it's what, like $30 per person. And it was a 40 people who I had there my first year. And I was standing there. I was like, huh. So I no longer have to go and drive these little gifts. Keep in mind, there's still power in pop buys. Don't
Right.
dismiss that.
Right.
But I was like, now I can just be here spending quality time, 4 hours with my clients, having the conversations, just chatting how's everything going, answering questions about real estate, and then I can go home. And now I have this amazing marketing touch, because who else invites you to go have a great meal in a beautiful restaurant completely comped? It's not the mentality that we have in real estate career. Just like for you, Tim, the things like you are doing complimentary real estate conference. For us, the agents, I'm like, what? All I need to do is buy a flight and hotel. I don't have to buy a ticket. It's amazing. But that's why I will be
Yeah, and just to
comfortable.
talk actual numbers too, we it costs us on our annual mastermind, it costs us about $150,000 a year to put on the mastermind. And we crunch the numbers on like, okay, just to not lose money on the event. I'm not saying to make any money, but just to not lose money, we would have to charge the attendees a minimum of $500 a ticket. So that would be the price for us just to break even, is by charging $500. But instead we eat the cost every year. It costs us about 150 grand. But I have the exact same mentality that you do, is like, it's an investment. It's not an expense, because if we can hang out with our clients in real life and build relationships with them, and we're the size now where I personally can't have an hour conversation with every client who's there, right? But if I can even talk to someone for 5 minutes, like that really helps me establish a connection with our clients, because they're not going to work with any other marketing company where they're going to talk to the CEO for 5 minutes. If you hire Zillow or Ylopo or Curator or insert name of any other company, right? You're not ever going to meet the CEO. So if I can even get 5-10 minutes with some random clients, last year I remember I went out for dinner after the mastermind one night, like nothing super planned. We're like, hey, what's everyone doing for dinner? And Steph Fortman. So I grabbed dinner at a local pizza place that was right by the hotel, kind of in Naples. And we went out for pizza with like Steph Fortman, her husband Brian. My mom was there, my aunt was there, a couple of our team members. Jen Polson was there, and Jen is actually a realtor in Utah who was just interviewed on the Platform podcast. So her episode just went live, I think, a week ago. But and I still remember that meal from a year ago, because it was just a small group of us who went out. We ended up talking for 2 hours just about life, and we didn't even really talk about business. So you actually get to know people in a real life setting. And I can't put a price on that. Like, I don't know what's the ROI of that pizza. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure the bill was a couple $100, whatever. But it's like the fact that I still remember it over a year later, that I went out for pizza, with Jen Polson and Steph Fortman, and like those memories last a long time. And it's hard to calculate what the return on investment of that is. But when you're in a people business, you should always err on the side of spending money to deepen relationships, because the ROI has a funny way of just working out over the long term.
No, and you build raving fans for life within the platform community. I build raving fans for life within my client community. Because not only I'm a good salesperson, everyone on my team are very, very skilled. We're full-time professionals. This is our day, night, and career, but we are genuinely caring people. you know? And I'm not everybody's cup of tea, just like Tim, you're not everybody's cup of tea. And it's good to set the boundaries and maybe have a little bit of faith. People who are meant to work with me or people who are meant to be part of the platform community, they will.
Yeah, it's not that spending money automatically means you'll have great relationships with your clients or you'll get more referrals, right? But it's often to do the type of events that are going to get people to show up so that you have the opportunity to cultivate those relationships, you have to spend money, right? We've hosted our mastermind at a beach hotel in Naples the last couple years. This year, we decided just to change it up, so we're not doing it the same spot every year. So we're actually having it at Disney World this year. I said this is expensive. It's going to cost us, upwards of $150,000 this year. We didn't always start that way, but we want the destination and the venue for our client events to be somewhere that people would actually want to go, because we could save a bunch of money and host it in Wichita, Kansas, right? Or host it in Iowa or something. And honestly, probably a lot of our clients would still show up, but it helps a lot to host it at a really cool destination that people actually want to go to. And that costs money, right? So again, it's not that automatically spending money just automatically means that you'll have great relationships with your clients. Not necessarily. Like, everyone probably knows an asshole agent in their market who no one really likes them, but they just throw money at marketing and they don't have good relationships with their clients, but they just spend 30 grand a month on billboards or direct mail or whatever, right? So spending money doesn't mean you'll have great relationships with your clients, but very often, to put yourself in the type of situation where you can actually hang out in person with your clients, like, you have to spend money. Like, it's kind of just, it's at a certain point it's unavoidable. So I don't want to pressure anyone to spend money on client appreciation events if you don't have money to spend. But at a certain point, you kind of just have to bite the bullet and be like, you know what, if I'm gonna build a tribe here and build a database that's loyal to me and refers people to me, at a certain point you have to start investing money in those events.
Yeah, I want to add something. So, client events, it's also a lot of work. You have to prep. You have to have maybe somebody who's helping you execute your vision come to life. I'm a visionary, and I function on delegation because there's a lot of things that live in my head, and if I don't delegate for somebody who's going can help me to bring this back to life, then nothing's going to happen. But also, there is magic behind invitation system. It's a total system, and I will share about it a little bit more at our in-person event. But there's 5 touches that we do, because keep in mind, yes, there's going to be a solid crowd who's going to show up to every client event that you host, but there's also people who love, like, and respect you. The client events may not be their thing. I'll give you an example. I just closed an amazing transaction last Friday, and it's been my client. They've been my clients since 2016, and they were coming, and then they kind of stopped. And there's signs if somebody like stops coming to your event, check in with them, what's going on. And I knew that there was something going on within this family's life for years, and the client events was just not their priority. But I still kept in touch. They still were invited to every single thing that I hosted. There was still a communication and rapport between me and Mrs. Seller. And of course, when they were selling and moving out of state, I was the only option because I was the only person who, was there for them. And they live in a very kind of like popular area. And is their area being farmed all the time by other agents? Yes, they are. But I know no one comes from the place of heart, place of service. And to be honest, yes, my client event system works because I can reach out to them. And when when I was expecting to see this family and they didn't come, I was like, hey, I missed you at this event. What's going on? And then you get into these conversations. So don't focus on the money thing, how much the event is going to cost or where you're going to do it. It can be something really, really small. For God's sake, it can be a cookie exchange at your house with your lady client community, right? But you're going to do strategic touches and reach out to the people you probably haven't spoke for a very long time and jumpstart these conversations. So, and that's how you start working by referral. By working by referral, it's not a hope, it's a system. It's much different than working by word of mouth, right? Because Tim, in your case, if you would assume that word of mouth would get platform, lots of different clients, it's an empty hope, right? Lots of business owners work by word of mouth.
Yeah,
They
it's
hope.
always it's always a bonus. It's the icing on the cake, but it can't be the cake itself.
Yeah. Yeah, we're working by referral. It's actually a thing. You have to tell your consumers, your clients, how do you actually generate business, you know? That's why when we do copy for our client appreciation events, we always say in a gratitude of your continuous support and referrals throughout the year, you have to activate people's minds. No one wakes up and thinks, "Oh, I'm going to refer Tim some agents today, or I'm going to refer Lana a buyer seller." No, it's our job to train our people to understand how we actually do work by referral. My entire business, my only thing that I'm paying, actually, it's only platform ads, you know, in partnership with you guys. Everything else is organic. And that's why, you know, when I talk to my clients, I was like, hey, your referrals is the bread and butter of my business. Thank you so much. They need to hear this because if not, they're just going to look at traveling Lana speaking at all these conferences and assume that Lana generates her business, you know, from God knows where. Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Referrals. Yeah, you have to actually verbally tell them, my business works because of your referrals. You can't just ever cross your fingers and just assume that it's going to happen. I want to put a specific number to this too for people listening, because I think often the reason that people might not get started doing events and building a business, that operates via referral is because they don't know what's good or what's the goal or what should my metrics or ratios be. And I think a good specific number to start with is take whatever your target GCI is. And so let's say that you would like to get to 500,000 in GCI. Take whatever your GCI is, and you should probably be investing 5% of that into your client appreciation events every year. So if you aren't yet, like, again, if you aren't yet making 500,000 in GCI, what's 5% of 500,000? It's $25,000. So one way to get to 500,000 is commit to next year. I will spend $25,000 on client appreciation events. If your goal is, to get to 300,000, well, what is 5% of 300,000? It's 15,000, right? If your goal is to get to 300,000, you should be at least at a minimum spending $15,000 a year on client appreciation events. That's why sometimes when you hear people that are like, oh, I spent $50,000 last year on my events, and you're just like, wow, I could never do that. It's like, well, that person's probably doing $1 million in GCI, right? So everything scales at a certain ratio, but that's a good ratio to start with if you're thinking about what can I afford or what should I be budgeting for. Is if you want to grow, commit to spending 5% of whatever your target GCI is should be spent on doing client events. So you mentioned Easter, you have big Easter brunch. What are some of the other really successful events that you try to do every year, and what do those cost?
Yeah, so I like to keep it a little bit seasonal. You know, so because like when there's a holiday, it's kind of triggers my mind, triggers the consumer's mind. So Easter celebration, we typically do it week before Easter because don't do it on an Easter weekend. You're gonna lose some crowd because people are going out of town, see grandparents, or going to church and things like that. Um, then I'm a mom, I have kids in school, and I feel like celebrating summer, it's a big deal. And it just happens that every summer, especially in June, there's some kind of cool movies that's coming out. There was a Jurassic Park that was launched. Like this year, it was Inside Out 2 with the emotions, and we do a client movie premiere. It has been very effective. And see, when you start doing this on a consistent basis and you cater this to your client community, it becomes a bit of a like not expectation, but our clients actually, when we don't send out, sometimes we send invitations delayed and they're like, hey, are you doing this year? And I'm like, well, of course I am. Your invitation is in the mail. Here is a flyer, right? Movie event. It's awesome. I recommend doing a kid-friendly movie. This one time we just did a Jurassic Park, and a lot of clients with small kids did not come through. This particular summer, we did Inside Out, the cartoon, and we also did Bad Boys 2 for the dads. Because Father's Day happened to be the same around the same time. So we killed two birds with one stone, or whatever it goes. And over there, I think so. The cost is around $8 or $9 per ticket. We do it on a
Okay.
Saturday mornings. Don't do it on Sundays. It's a weird day. People relax. They go to church as well. Saturday morning is great. between breakfast and lunchtime. They eat breakfast at home, they come to watch movie with us, they can go have lunch on their own. And we provide small little voucher for popcorn and small drink, and that's typically sponsored by one of our vendors that happens to be our lender. Okay, so for all of our audience listening, once again, everything does not have to be your cost. When planned ahead of time, you can bring the sponsor partners and we can strategize. Please reach out to me directly. I would love to guide you through it. And when you're asking for somebody to sponsor your event, never do it via text or a low key call. It needs to be in person conversation. It's just better that way, right?
Now, how many people showed up to your last movie event last June when you sponsored Inside Out and Bad Boys? Do you know like what was the total
Yeah,
attendance?
probably around 350, maybe 400, something like that.
Okay, so let's just say 400, make it easy math. So $400 times about $10 means that you spent $4,000 buying the tickets
The tickets,
approximately.
yes. And then everyone gets like a little complimentary voucher, but that portion was paid by my lender and was not my cost.
Right. So really you probably spent less than $5,000 all in sponsoring the event, promoting it, sending out invitations, things like that. And in exchange for that $5,000, again, which $5,000 is a fraction of one commission check for you, right? And you had over 300, almost 400 people come and enjoy a movie night. And they're always going to associate that with the Lana Rodriguez group that, hey, I got to take my kid to see the new Disney movie because of Lana Rodriguez. And all that for, again, not just 50 people or 100 people, but almost 400 people had that positive interaction with you and your brand, and all it cost you was $5,000. I mean, that's an incredible value. I mean, that's a really cool value.
Yeah, incredible value, and it's these little experiences that people get to. Even we have some families, and then the husband and wives come through, and I'm like, "Where are your kids?" They're like, "Oh, they're with a sitter. This is our date night or date time." I was like, so weird. Okay, but let's go with it. We have seen parents bringing their newborn babies and tagging us. This is my baby's first movie experience. Thank you, Lana Rodriguez group. Right, because when you start creating these little experiences, it becomes part of your community's culture, and culture is a big thing. If you don't think it is, it's a really big thing. I do want to share, I don't know if we're running out of time or not, Tim, but our biggest client event of every single year, it's our pumpkin patch. It's just something happens in Colorado where everybody just ditches the summer, no one even cares about the heat, and everybody embraces the fall. We partner up with a local pumpkin patch venue, and we have been using them for longest time. We try to explore other options every once in a while, but no one can accommodate the standard that we have right now. And this particular year, we had 1,000 RSVPs. I was getting a little bit worried. 1,000 RSVPs.
1,000?
Yep, 1,000 RSVPs, and we
Wow.
had 650 attendance. Uh, Primarily because it was end of September and the cold front came in. So when we all got there, it was like snow hailing. It was so freaking cold. So remember, the actual RSVP of the event, it's not the actual numbers. But yes, this is a particular event that we open up a little bit to the community per invitation only. Our clients can bring their neighbors, their friends. Everybody has to register though, because I'm gathering everybody's emails. We're not
Yep.
doing this for
Yep.
free. Come one, come all. No. Yeah, we had 1,000 RSVPs. I thought we were going to break the pumpkin patch, but we had solid 650 attendees. And
That's
that particular
amazing.
event costs me $10 per person to enter. And what do they get? They can enjoy the pumpkin patch activities. They can get a little pumpkin, mid-sized little pumpkin home. And then I think we also provided meals, and meals were $6 per person. And meals were barbecue sandwiches provided by the venue or hot dogs for the kids. So that particular event overall plus minus $10,000.
Yep. Yep. And I was going to say, so you spent about 10 grand, but you had
Yeah.
over 600 people show up
Yeah.
and all you spent was $10,000. That's a phenomenal investment of money to have that many people show up. Again, just for perspective, like our annual mastermind will have like 300 people and we spend $150,000. You had 600 people show up and all you had to spend to create that experience was about $10,000. So that's a phenomenal ROI. Lana, what would you say if you added up all the events that you do throughout the year? What is your total like annual budget for events?
Ooh, budget. I hate word budget as a whole. On a Before the market shifted, I'll be fully transparent with you. Before market shifted and before I was actually seeking for contributions from my vendors and lending partners, we would spend $100,000 a year.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
but it's a 10x investment. It's so much worth it. Now on a shifted market, we probably are budgeting closer to 40, 50 grand,
Okay.
only because we need to get back up in sales and things like that, and then I'm investing my monies also into the platform marketing, and that's part of annual budget. um, but for anyone listening, don't let these numbers scare you guys. If you're just starting, just do it, because done is better than not done.
And you and your team, just to kind of give context to
Yeah.
these numbers, how many how many homes have you sold total, and like how many homes did your team sell last year or this year, just so people can kind of get some context of, okay, she's spending this much on her client events and everything, but like how much is she actually making in terms of like how many transactions are you guys doing, what's your volume?
Yeah. Okay. So overall, for the last 10 years, we have served almost 1,700 families. Okay. Our best year was 2021. We served 300 families, and did 120 million in value. And then after that, market started declining. In the following year, we did 200 transactions. Last year, we did 150. And this year, we're probably going to do closer to 150 as well.
That, again, that's still phenomenal considering we're in a tough market right now, that you had 150 transactions last year, this year. Do you know approximately what that translates to in terms of volume?
Yeah, probably 65 mils this year. Maybe 70, but probably 65.
Okay, so again, just to put all this in context, she's going to spend, let's just call it $50,000 of, on putting on these client appreciation events, but her business is going to sell $65 million, in a sales volume this year. So like that's a good trade. It's not like she's losing money doing these events like that. It's showing up in terms of all of the referrals you're getting. So obviously now that we're 45 minutes into this, we've painted this picture of where your business is at now, how you've built a business that operates on referrals. You already had a successful business. So I kind of have to ask, like, why did you sign up for platform? What does platform um add to this marketing strategy, because you already had such a successful thing going?
Wow. Okay. Great question. Yeah, let me get really vulnerable real quick here with our audience. So full transparency, for the longest time, I'm not saying I was a queen of our town, but I was very, very well known. I was top ranking, And within the last few years, few things happened. Market started to shift, and also my focus primarily from being a top team leader shifted, because I have joined the new brokerage and I had a privilege to go and grow Real Broker and build this amazing agent community all across the country. I'm a loud and proud at 700 agent partners, and that it's been a new journey, and I embraced it, but it also took a lot of my time from being omnipresent and being focused within my client community. And I have started feeling very, very distant. And you do not know this, Tim, but I have been thinking I need to find a way to put this myself back. But just like you, just like all of our agent friends, I'm very, very busy. My life is very busy. I'm a mom, I'm a team leader. I'm also a little bit full time, not full time, but kind of like part time in production myself. And now I'm, overseeing and leading this amazing agent network all across the country. And I was like, I just need
And you're
something.
you're you're speaking at conferences, you're,
I'm a
yeah.
speaker. Yes, I love that. And 2021, 22 were big travel years for me. 2023, I slowed down a little bit, but I was traveling and, sharing how to work by referral, things like that, which is very rewarding. But the more you're out there empowering others, that you're taking it away from your community, your clients and things. And to the point where my clients are like, "Hey, when are you back? You're traveling." So I was actually manifesting. I'm a true believer that I manifested the platform, because I would love to find something that would help me come back locally to show that I still love my community. And I felt like it was a blessing to see you speak on stage at Girls with Grit. Forever grateful for that opportunity, and learn more about what you guys do and how you guys do it. And I was like, I want it to be easy for me. I was like, if you give me the list what to do, and I can just report with my photos and my videos, and it can be still organically me, because I have tried a lot of shit, excuse my language, that I was not me. I was like, I cannot do this. I'm not some I'm very funny, to be honest. I'm a classy gal, but I'm funny. And I feel like, platform just showcases who I am. You are great. Jacqueline is great. Everyone are so amazing. And I feel like you guys are the missing piece, what I was missing. And
Yeah.
now it brings me back into my roots. It makes me more grounded into Colorado Springs within my client community and the community that will see who I am, that
Yeah.
maybe will never see me before.
So really it's like you got so successful as an agent that you started to, help real broker build build their business and recruit agents. You found yourself speaking at a lot of conferences on how you had built such a successful real estate business. But as you started to build more of a national profile, you kind of started feeling more distant from your actual local community in Colorado Springs because you were traveling so much and you were speaking at conferences and you were so in demand kind of everywhere else, that for you, hiring platform wasn't necessarily about, hey, I need to generate a bunch of leads, as much as like, I want to make sure that I'm staying constantly top of mind with people, at home in Colorado Springs, even though I might be traveling a lot, speaking at conferences. I want to make sure that they keep seeing me pop up on their, Facebook news feed, on their Instagram feed, um, so that like you never lose that. Because obviously that's the foundation of the entire business, is you have a successful real estate team that's selling a lot of homes.
Yeah, yeah. And the extra exposure doesn't hurt either, because now I have like my son's teacher. She was like, "Hey, I saw one of your like photos or videos." I was like, "Cool." And she's not even my Facebook friend, right? So,
Yeah.
or I was walking at Garden of the Gods, it's one of our parks, and somebody recognized me, and I was like, "Oh shit." Like, who was this? They're like, "Lana." I was like, "Hey." But things like this, it just adds to who you are and to your brand. And that's been pretty cool to watch that evolve.
What's been your favorite platform ad that you've run so far, in terms of what got the most engagement, or what ad you think was the most successful, or that people have like told you about in real life? Is there any particular ad that stands out?
As far as like real life, people's like, "Hey, we see your post," and I'm like, "Which one?" And they're like, "Well, we don't remember, but we just see you on our page." So that's that. But my favorite was, to the point, like I may get teary eye, I may like crying, but the gods made a small business owner.
Okay. Yep.
I think that ad is absolutely genius. And when I watched, you guys sent me some examples, and I was like literally watching it, tearing up. And I did it myself. I was gonna hire a gal. My gal was gonna charge me $1,000. I was like, no, I don't have time or money for that. I don't want to. So I did it on my cell phone, and I highlighted local businesses that I absolutely love. And you were so kind to put it all together and just do my voiceover. In my opinion, that ad is so powerful. I think we're at, what, over 170,000 views right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I actually checked that before the interview because I wanted to bring it up, that video you did has over 170,000 plays on Facebook. So that's incredible, because it's not like, I mean, a Colorado Springs isn't a small town by any means, but it's also not Denver. So it's not some huge city. So if you have a video in Colorado Springs that got 170,000 video views, that means a pretty significant percentage of the population there has seen that video. That's pretty cool.
No, that's awesome. And it was such a gift to give them back, and the small business owners appreciated it. I know they did. It's just typically no one else like highlights small businesses like that. Just keep it in mind, your community wants to be loved on. So it was my favorite. And then of course, the vanilla ice cream ad. I'm like, that just went off the tangents. People are like, who would assume that people are taking ice cream flavors so serious? But this is all the ideas that I would never come up with on my own. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm very busy. I have my priorities, and coming up with the content is not my superpower. Executing the content with y'all's help, let's go. But coming up with the content, I just don't have, and it's not my expertise. That's why I work with the experts, work with Tim, work with platform.
One ad that you may have even forgotten about because it was so long ago now, but we did an ad for Mother's Day for you, where you were holding up a copy of Toy Story on DVD, and we told the Mother's Day story about how, and this is a true story, by the way, that in like 1999, when Toy Story 2 was about to come out, uh, there was some error on their computers at Pixar, and like they deleted the entire movie from their server. So like the movie was almost done and it got completely wiped from the company's like server. And so they thought they had like years of work just got deleted accidentally because it takes years to make these movies, right? And they were just freaking out. And then a mom came in who was an employee at Pixar, and she said, "Hey, don't worry, I saved a backup. It's on a hard drive at my house. Like I saved a backup, so it's not on the company servers." And so we just told the story about, oh, classic, a mom saved the day. And so it was just a picture of you telling that story, but it was a photo we used as a Facebook ad of you holding up like a copy of Toy Story on DVD. And that post of yours, again, I don't even know if you remember this because this was back in May, I think. That post went so viral, it got over 1,000 shares. I mean, it had like thousands of comments. We actually had to delete the post because I was worried that it was going to totally nuke your retargeting audience because it went like nationally viral. Like it was getting like just new comments literally every minute were coming in, had over 1,000 shares. I was like, okay, it's going so viral for you that like your retargeting audience is kind of like pointless now because it has people from all across the country are now following your page because of this post. So we actually had to, it was so successful, we had to delete it, that post just went like viral. So we'll probably try launching it again next year and kind of cross our fingers and hope it doesn't go as viral again. But it's been fun seeing the content put out on your page and how well it does. There was also that post of you and Brian, I know, of your top 3 restaurants
Oh yeah, that was
of
a good
like
one.
of
Yep.
hey, here's my favorite top 3 restaurants versus here's my husband's top 3, and we listed them out, and then we just asked the question, whose top 3 list do you agree with? And just kind of a simple post, and we listed out all the restaurants, but that post actually got the highest click rate of any ad in the history of your ads account.
Wow. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, and that was something I think we pushed that out maybe a month or two ago, but that's like actually the most successful Facebook ad campaign in the history of you having a Facebook account. So it's been cool seeing your ads get so much engagement because I totally agree with you. Like I think you can build a national brand. You can speak at conferences. You can kind of be a thought leader in the real estate community, but you also have to maintain your credibility and your kind of your authority positioning at home in your local market, right? So hopefully, platform is helping you do that. And I've just got to say, I'm excited to see you speak at the mastermind coming up, and I'm excited for everyone in the platform to get to hear you go more in depth and tell your story on how you're pulling off these events and building a referral business, because clearly something you're doing is working. You move to a new country, a new city, your team is selling over 100 homes a year, sometimes hundreds of homes a year, plural. Um, Whatever you're doing, Lana, it's working.
Oh, thank you, Tim. I appreciate you. I appreciate this opportunity. And if you are coming to Platform Live Mastermind in Orlando, my keynote will be very tactical. There will be very little storytelling, but there's going to be a lot of tactics that you can actually implement in your business in 2025.
All right. Well, I'll see you at Disney World. And everyone listening, thank you for checking out the Platform Marketing Show.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Tim.